Dear trading friends, today I have an incredibly exciting video that I've put together for you. I want to share some data with you. We're going to take a look at the Bitcoin accumulation trend score together. I haven't had this on my radar for a long time, nor have I shared it with you recently. But what's happening right now, unfortunately, isn't very nice, because the whales with over 10,000 Bitcoins are still selling off. What the sharks are doing is super interesting, but we're also going to compare that. What is retail currently doing? But if we see that retail investors, the small green line, let me zoom in a bit, have been buying the whole time while the big whales and institutions are selling here, we should be a bit cautious. Not only that, I also have a new price target for you, one that I have just found for myself. But we're also going to take a look at Ethereum. I want to share that with you as well because, as I mentioned in the last live stream, I've now gotten the Coinglass Prime subscription. That means if you want to have all the data in the future, including a liquidation heat map that goes back 2 years, which I'm about to show you for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, then stay tuned to my channel and feel free to subscribe. Of course, I'd really appreciate it. Neutral trading content. We take a close look at a lot of level 2 data. You know the drill. Order books, liquidation heat map. But what I also have and want to share with you is the video Bitcoin bottom confirmed. This signal is extremely rare and I use it because we're talking specifically about this indicator, which has always perfectly signaled the bottom here, if you use it correctly. That means wait for 2 green bars and then enter an accumulation phase. Every single time, just look at the past. For those who aren't familiar, it marked massive bottom formations exactly when this indicator triggered, followed by major rallies. And now we have it again, and this is the monthly chart. We're seeing exactly that right now. If you want to have the indicator as well, it's free. Just watch the video, and above all, don't forget to subscribe. So what am I sharing with you today? Before we move on to the liquidation heat map, let's look at the 2-year chart. Okay, there, Bitcoin at lower prices is very concerning. If we go there, but as we know, and anyone who says otherwise, we are not in a bear market. I don't know if this is just a normal correction. We have a very confirmed bearish price action, and I've already marked a few things, but it gets even more interesting later with the 2-year liquidation heat map for Ethereum. And of course, in future videos, as well as in my live streams, I will go through all the altcoins with you and show you where liquidations are positioned on a 2-year basis. Because what do we not know at the moment? Up until now, we've only ever had 3 months of insight on altcoins like Solana, for example. And of course, right now, we hardly have any liquidations among us. But on a 2-year basis, this could be much more interesting for finding a possible bottom, just like with XLP or other coins. And I'd be happy to share that with you. But for now, let's stick with the Bitcoin accumulation trend score. As we can see here, the whales holding over 10,000 Bitcoins are still selling off. And I'd like to zoom out a bit for you now. Why are they selling at these low prices instead of buying more? First of all, this should definitely be seen as a warning sign if they continue to sell off. But are they selling at a loss? No, I've looked into this a bit and found the following. We can see here that at price peaks, like down here, they start selling off massively. But as soon as the price drops, they also start buying heavily. And I think every time we've hit a bottom somewhere, like here, for example, they've launched a massive buying rally, and only when the price started rising again did they begin to sell. Let's leave out everything that happened before this and focus on this part now. We can see here from 2021 onwards, where at the peak, they once again sold off a lot. Well, not everything, but a lot. They then started to accumulate massively, but only sold off a smaller amount afterwards. But as we hit the bottom here, gradually down below, you can see that the incredibly large amount, the largest amount that was bought in a single day, was back in 2022. And that was already a significant sum that flowed in here. But what we saw afterwards was that for what was bought here and here, there was hardly any major sell-off like we saw, for example, in this area or in this area, where things were really completely dumped. This means they accumulated more than they sold off. They accumulated very heavily again here during this larger correction in 2024, when large amounts of Bitcoin were bought at a very low price. And now, however, they are selling off almost exclusively Bitcoin during this entire price increase. And even now they've accumulated a bit more, but are continuing to sell off. What does that mean? Apparently they're not selling at a loss now because at price levels, what do we see here? Bitcoin was worth around 40,000 US dollars here. They accumulated massively. They accumulated massively here at a price of around 21,000 US dollars. But after that, they never sold off as heavily again. And here, at a price from about 64,000 down to around 50,000, they accumulated massively again. That means they have very low average purchase prices, which they are now gradually selling off. For that reason, they will have an average purchase price that probably, of course I can only assume this, does not yet leave them at a loss with their accumulations, which is why they are still selling off and probably also expect lower prices. And if we compare all of this with them, and this gets really interesting now as we move on to the sharks have actually acted almost perfectly here. If we look at this, the black line is the Bitcoin price, the red ones are the sharks, and you can see how they sold at the peaks, the price dropped, they accumulated, and then sold again at each peak. And they really did this in sync, you have to say, and continued to sell off bit by bit here. But from this point on, they really used price ranges almost perfectly, selling off at price peaks. Then when we dropped again, they bought back in, but also sold heavily at the tops. I have to say they really did that very well. But what else do I want to show you now? The current situation actually looks a bit different. They probably miscalculated a bit there. They did sell off well at the peaks, very, very well in fact, but during the big crash, they bought up a massive amount of Bitcoins here. Really massive amounts were accumulated, and yet the price has continued to fall. You can also see that the accumulation phase stopped here and now they're only buying back in slightly. Now the question is, do you follow the sharks or the whales? In other words, the whales who really act institutionally. And accordingly, let's compare this now with the retailers. And I think the retailer part is very interesting. We can see here that since August 2025, and unfortunately even at the peaks, I'm really talking about small investors with between 0 and 0.1 Bitcoin, they bought in at prices that were actually much too high, because we've dropped massively from prices of over 120,000 US dollars and are currently at a price of about 68,000 US dollars. And of course, all these people are now at a loss unless they have already sold. And if the whales keep selling off, the price can continue to fall. That can obviously cause maximum pain for people who might try to recover the rest of their funds from their coins. But if retailers are accumulating like this while whales and institutions are mostly selling, that could be a warning sign. We can also see here, for example, that people holding between 0.1 and 1 Bitcoin actually sold very well at the peaks. So there were quite a few who acted sensibly. And now as the price drops, they're gradually accumulating more. Whether that's the right decision, none of us can really say. Buying in with a dollar cost averaging strategy is definitely not a bad plan. And it's also something I intend to do. Maybe buying 0.1 Bitcoin every week, little by little. But what is interesting? When does it get really interesting for me? And that's something I'll be including in all the upcoming videos again. When we see that we've now formed a bottom and maybe then, just like here, have a similar big peak upwards where the whales start to accumulate. And we've seen this happen at regular intervals. When we found a bottom, they've just accumulated massively. The price is, but that doesn't mean the price has already stabilized. No, absolutely not. It can still go down further, but when the big players are buying in, when billions are really flowing in, they will of course weigh their risks accordingly. So much for the trend accumulation score for now. We'll now move on to the liquidation heat map, which in my opinion looks potentially concerning for Bitcoin, but even more concerning for Ethereum. I've actually discovered something there that might even make me adjust my price targets downward. As you know, with Model 3, if you've registered without a subscription, you can look back 1 year for Bitcoin and Ethereum, but only 3 months for all the other altcoins. But now I have the ability to look back 2 years for every single coin. If you're interested in that, check it out. Of course, I'd be happy if you use my link in the video description, because then I get a little something from it. You have the option here to get the subscription for $28 US per month, but also annually or quarterly. A very affordable price. Payment is only made via crypto to a wallet, and you get instant access, so you can also include the liquidation heatmap level data from 2 years ago. And I think that's super interesting. If you say you don't want to support, then just follow me on my channel. Of course, I'll be sharing this with you regularly in all the videos and live streams. You can also feel free to ask me which coins I should analyze, and I'll be happy to do that for you. We're now using Liquidation's Heatmap Model 3 because we have the deepest insights. So we go to Symbol, where all the liquidation data from all exchanges is included, and now we select 2 years. And now we see something that we didn't see in the 1 year view, because the liquidation data goes down to about 45,000 US dollars. And it's already very interesting that here, if I zoom in, we still have several larger levels coming up. First, 58,000 to 57,000, where there are still about 3 billion. I want to quickly show you which level is that, 58 to 57,000. You probably know this from my videos. That's the 0.681 Fibonacci, a possible reversal that could occur here. But if we already moved to that price and now look into the last 2 years, let's go down to 54,000 to 53,000. We see here just under a billion at 55,000, 1.2 billion at 54.8, then another 1.43, 1.34, and then another half a billion. We have here again a large liquidation cluster, which we shouldn't ignore, where prices could move into. And the last one, where we are already almost at, where is it? We reached the 0786 Fibonacci level. So it's more this price range that I just marked. From 49,000 down to about 45,000, that's where we actually have another large cluster in Bitcoin. 1.66 billion, 1.12 billion, almost another billion, then 1.87, another half a billion, and again almost 2 billion, and below that, all accumulated, about 1 billion. Again, a few billion that are incredibly interesting. Please, beforehand, this really does not mean that I am saying it will happen. But you know this from my videos, also how we saw it with Ethereum, the 1-year liquidation heat map in Model 3, which hardly anyone out there uses from Model 3. But I shared it with you, I specifically shared it with you as a warning, as preparation, so that we can use prices. And I already said I'm going long at 2,000 US dollars and a bit below that. And those were exactly the levels we had insight into here. We had already seen a 1-year heat map there, but now I'm looking at 2 years, and that gets much more interesting because of course we still see the level at 1,500 US dollars. As I said, that's still interesting. That's also an interesting level for me because if we look at the large orders and whale trades, which I'll share with you again, we see in this area around 1,500 US dollars, as you can see here, an incredible number of limit orders waiting to be triggered into long positions as well as spot purchases. It's definitely interesting that we're hitting this level. And we're talking about roughly 100 billion here, that's the amount sitting at this level. And my worst case scenario, as I see it at the moment, where previously we had no insight, would actually be in the range of 1,300 to 1,200 US dollars for companies now. And now I'll zoom in on that area again. At 1,320 US dollars, there are another 8.48 billion, then another 8.29 billion, and then another 15 billion here at 1,273. We're talking about 30 billion here, and if I go a bit further down, that's another 2 billion. So over 30 billion, and unfortunately we can't see any further down, but over 30 billion is possible if we maybe get in here, make one last wick, cause maximum pain, and pick that up. If that doesn't happen, that's fine too. But of course I have to, and we all have to do this if we have trading bots running, if we have open positions. At least now we have the insight with the 2-year liquidation heat map. Where could a possible stop be? Where could I place new orders? Or where is my liquidation point? And do I need to adjust accordingly, secure my position or maybe lower my leverage? Or if I don't have anything open, I know, okay, here's an opportunity for me to go long or also to buy new coins. That's also how I will proceed, because the 1,500 US dollars still look interesting to me. I can only say it again. Level 2 data, I've shared everything with you also in the videos. Feel free to check out my playlist on that. Learn trading step by step to becoming a professional trader. There, I share everything with you in detail, how it works and how you can apply it. But right now, we still have the opportunity to take a look at 2-year liquidations. I'm also looking forward to going through the altcoins together with you. And if you're interested in Coinglass Prime, it would be really great if you use the link in the video description. $28 via crypto transfer for such trading data is of course super interesting. But of course you can also just follow my channel and then we'll go through it together and you'll save yourself a bit here. Until next time, don't forget to like and leave your comment. Bye bye.